Hi, my name is Gaurav. I am the managing partner of Co-Creation Partners, and I just presented at the ARF Foundation session, which is quite interesting because it was a bunch of people who are doing market research and consultants who are trying to understand how to impact organizational performance. So my topic was about how to make transformation stick, which is quite an interesting topic because transformation is a new buzzword in organizations today, right? So often when I go into an organization, the first question I ask the C-suite or the CEO is, when you talk about transformation, what is it? Because everyone seems to use it. What do you mean by a transformation? And usually most of them say transformation is big change. And I want to transform, I want to make something happen, I want to make an impact. And I say, is that really what transformation is? And so they say, what do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. And I say, give me an example from nature about a transformation. Or they say, oh, that way, yeah, transformation is metamorphosis. I say, absolutely. So let's talk about a metamorphosis in nature. And often what they'll say is a caterpillar into a butterfly. And I say, good. So help me understand what are the qualities of caterpillar moving into a butterfly, which is transformation. And usually we land on three things, right? One is that a butterfly cannot go back to being a caterpillar, which means from a transformation can never go back. The second thing which they often will say, which is absolutely true, is that a butterfly, the way it sees the world, because it's flying around, is completely different from the way a caterpillar sees the world, which is crawling on a leaf, which is a shift in root perspective. And then the third piece which they will often talk about is that a caterpillar, it's in the DNA of the caterpillar that the transformation happens. And when I push them on what is the DNA of an organization, where we land is, it's about the people. So a transformation does not happen when you just change processes, a transformation happens when you change people. And so then the conversation happens, how do you change the mindsets of people so that you can really create a transformation? And all the work I do is around that. And essentially what I have concluded based on this is that there are two parts to a transformation. One is transforming the environment in which people operate, and the other is transforming the individual himself or herself. Because if you don't do that, transformations will not happen. And the thing with transformations is we often think we can force people to transform, and that's something which is absolutely the complete opposite of what really happens. Because if you push people to transform or make choices, they tend to increase their resistance. And a lot of the times organizations face resistance in transformations because CEOs and C-suite people have forced transformations on them, which in the longer term is harmful for the organization. So that's really what it is about. And there are four elements of the environment, which is there a powerful story which connects with people? Is there enough role modeling happening? And are you really tapping into the people who everyone listens to? Not the high performers, but the people who make all the trouble, because that's where all gossip starts. Are you making sure that the formal systems in your organization are aligned with the transformation? And do people have the right skills? Right? And that creates an environment. And then the other piece of it, which is really key, is the person piece, because if you just focus on environment, it takes 5 years to transform. And we don't have that kind of time in corporate America. So then you have to focus on the people. And the way you shift the people is not focusing just on behaviors, but truly understanding and helping people understand what are their limiting mindsets, what are their assumptions, what are their values, and what are their fears, which have been making them perform the way they have. And that's really what the essence of a transformation is. When someone doesn't know what he doesn't know, and you just go and tell them, hey, you don't know it, they can't say it. So what you have to think about is, what is the relevant event that is going to make that person say it? Sometimes people say it's 360 feedback. Sometimes people say it's because you hire a consultant and they do extensive research. But quite honestly, it's more than that. You have to connect with the person at a deeper level to really understand what is blocking them, because that's how you create relevance, to create awareness. And once that awareness happens for someone to want to do something, then you can take them from being consciously unskilled, which is I now know what I don't know, to I want to do something about it, and really being consciously skilled. And ultimately you need lots of practice, right? And the thing which blocks people from not knowing what they don't know in organizations today is this beautiful word called best practice. Because when people hit best practice, then they say, okay, now I've arrived. Or organizations say they've arrived, right? And quite honestly, if you get stuck in best practice, someone is going to create the next practice. And if you don't have the humility to say that, you're going to run into trouble. Storytelling has many dimensions, especially in an organizational context, right? The one thing is, yes, the management needs to be able to tell a really powerful story. And there are 5 different levels of reasons or meaning because of which people come to work, right? There's basically, I come to work because of myself, my team, the customer, the company, as well as society. And most of the time, most people focus on the self. And so a powerful story is often one which talks not just about the customer and the company, but about the individual who's going to get impacted. And wonderful story, I'm working at a chemical manufacturing plant where my client team has developed a change story where they're about to go through a lean manufacturing process which is going to lead to cost cutting. And obviously there's resistance because people think that they're going to lose their jobs. And the story is all around, this is not about losing jobs, this is about providing you skills which you can use anywhere. And it's about creating a sustenance so that more and more investment comes into this plant so people can have their jobs. And suddenly you start talking to them at their level rather than talking about what a benefit you have for the company, right? The only other thing I'd say about storytelling is in the organizational context, the more you can get people to participate in the development of the story versus just telling the story, the more powerful it becomes. Because the more people invest in something, the more ownership they have. The moment you put up a PowerPoint presentation which looks really finished, people get into reactive mode versus participative mode. And so what I try and do and what I try and educate leaders to do is to get into a facilitative mode where you build the story through either flip charts or through writing on your computer and building it with the people as you interact, because then they understand and they take steps in the story with you versus just reacting to something which they are saying, okay, now you already know it, you're telling it to me and I'm going to tell you why it's wrong.